Hello and happy Tuesday, everybody. It's me, your friend Robin, who is in the middle of an allergy attack. It's been going on all day, and so if you hear a little something in my voice, that's what it is. I just keep sneezing, which honestly is kind of fun. We all like to sneeze, don't we? I know I do. It's just kind of fun. It's exciting. And I don't feel bad. I don't feel sick or anything, so we're happy about that. In fact, I'm having a much better week. Thank you guys for asking. Thank you guys for your concern. I know the last episode of this podcast, I was really on a roll. I was really beating myself up. I was really upset about paper clips. I have a brief update about the paper clips coming up and the staples. But no, things are really, truly much better. I think, there's something to be said for getting it out there and just confronting your fears, like those piles. I mean, the fact that there are no piles in my office, that just changed my entire interior landscape. The entire brain feels like it got an overhaul. And not only that, it sort of elicited more of that in me. So everything I just feel, for the first time in my life, I feel really on top of things. I really do. And by the way, my emails are I'm keeping my emails to a very short amount. And then the things that I can get back to later, or, I can wait for, like the fun personal emails, I'll put those in a special little section. And a lot of you guys reached out telling me your methods for keeping your email inbox clean, and I appreciated it. It seems like I was on the right path because everybody seems to do similar things. But anyway, I appreciate everybody who wrote in. I will respond to you guys all at some point. But then I got obsessed with something. Now, all of a sudden, I'm obsessed with fixing my website. So I just decided, instead of going on and on and on the website, on my design, and trying to make it the absolute most unique thing that's ever happened to websites, I'm like, you know what? I think the point is just kind of getting it up there. Maybe just getting it up there, getting my shop reopened, and getting all of my drawings on a website and having a contact on it. Is it really that big of a deal? So last night and today, I decided to make the skeleton version of my website. So it's all just very generic. It looks like generic chip bags back in the 80s. I'm using Helvetica. I love Helvetica. We're just keeping it so simple. It's black and white right now. I haven't even put any of the images up. That's a lot. You guys, do you realize I've been making work and showing work for 30 years? I have officially been doing this for 30 years now. And so it's a lot. There's a lot to wade through. What matters, what doesn't. I think at this point, the sheer volume of the amount of work I've done kind of does count for something. So I'd like this to be an exhaustive website, but maybe for now, I just do my best. I get some shit up on there and then we call it a day, because I cannot take thinking about it anymore. I guess that's where I'm at, kind of like those piles and everything else, where I'm just, like anything that's unnecessarily clogging up my brain space has got to go. And this is why I go back to that new way of living that I have, where everything I do needs to be making my life simpler. Every decision I make will be one that makes my life simpler. So, getting a stupid Squarespace account and just putting up the most basic ass website, that does make my life pretty simple. I could probably get this done in a few weeks. I'm giving myself till my birthday, the end of April. That's what I'm saying. Now, I really hope I can get it done by then, and I think I can. But I'll be honest with you, today it was all I could do to not just work on it all day. I wanted to skip the podcast. I wanted to skip going to the gym. I wanted to skip eating lunch. I wanted to skip it all because I just want to focus in. I'm doing that thing that I do where no matter what it is, it could be something that I totally hate, but once I get going on something, I just want to do it until the end of time. So that's where I'm at now. It's been a good week too, because Damien came back from tour. Damien was on tour throughout the Midwest and some other places. So that was really nice to have him home. He drove through some pretty treacherous weather, which was terrifying. So I'm glad that he is back in one piece. and he had a great time. He met up with a lot of you guys who listen, so I am very envious I didn't get to go. Or am I? You know what? I don't know if I am. I would have loved to have seen Damien perform that many times in a row because I love watching him. I love watching him. But I had a nice time, like I think my time here by myself there was something very important for my, I don't know. It's almost like I had my own little residency at home for myself where I think I kicked off the next part of my life. And I also started to feel better, physically. I've been feeling so much better. So anyway, all this to just report back that I'm feeling pretty good this week. I hope you guys are too. I hope all is well in your worlds. I hope you're making something that you're excited about making, whether it just be dinner, or I shouldn't say just be dinner. That's a big deal, making dinner. Do you know how hard it is sometimes to just make food for yourself? Does everybody agree with that, or is that just me? For me, it's kind of like the last thing that I really want to do half the time. But it's one of those things that you got to do every day. First things first. That's one of my mottos up on my wall of my office. You've got to, I can't go in deep on the one corner of my website if I haven't yet eaten breakfast. That's kind of the first things first motto. Anyway, so let's take a little pause. Let's see. I recorded something for you guys, and now we're going to get back, and we've got a special but sad announcement. Being that last week I talked endlessly about all the paper clips and staples I had, I just want you guys to know I've been using an inordinate amount of staples and paper clips ever since that discovery. And I think it's like this, it really has seemed to come up naturally, but also I think I'm doing it to prove to myself that it's okay that I collected a lot of paper clips and staples and staple removers. And so anyway, it's becoming now a part of my daily life that I find something to staple, like this little game plan that I have here. Speaking of which, has to do with reaching out to certain indie publishers about advertising on me reading stuff. Let me just put this question out there to any of you guys who feel like writing in. It's info@robinoneal.com if you do. Have any of you guys here in the United States happened to have heard any ads on me reading stuff yet or not? I'm very curious because I think I accidentally signed up for something that would put some ads in automatically, but it would only be in major markets like New York, LA, and Seattle, Chicago. But I don't have any way of knowing about it. So if anybody wants to let me know and tell me what it was an ad for, I need to get to the bottom of this. I think I stopped it from happening, but I'm not sure. So reach out, let me know if you have in fact heard some sort of ads on me reading stuff. That's all for now. I'm going to go staple some shit together here. Don't mind me. I'm just drinking my decaf Americano as always. And you guys know what I got back out? Do you remember me recommending this in Recommendation Corner? I don't know the brand. Let's see. Coffee mug. It's just called a coffee mug warmer. I swear that's the brand. That's pretty great. And it's just this little white disc and you plug it in and then listen to this. You put your coffee mug on it. Boom. Keeps it warm forever. Now, maybe this is obvious. Maybe everybody has one of these, but once I saw this, I couldn't look back because I love my coffee to be extra hot. I don't like it when it gets lukewarm. I kind of won't drink it. I can't tell you how many times I go to the microwave to reheat my coffee if I'm not using this little guy. Anyway, Recommendation Corner, get yourself what's it called again? What does it say on the bottom? Coffee mug warmer. Highly recommend it. So I mentioned to you guys a little bit ago that we have a sad announcement. And I'm a little late to this announcement, actually, because there was the death of somebody significant to this podcast, really, and to me and to a lot of writers and readers that I know. I'm talking, of course, about Michael Silverblatt of Bookworm fame. Michael Silverblatt was born in 1952, and he died on February 14th at the age of 73 years old. Bookworm was a nationally syndicated radio program and later turned into a podcast as well. Did I say it was on KCRW in Los Angeles? And it was Michael Silverblatt's interviews and conversations with authors. That was what he dedicated his entire life to. And Bookworm was on KCRW from 1989 until 2022. That's 33 years. And by the way, he was unpaid for the first 5 years. He was just simply at a party of some sort, and maybe the director or somebody in charge at KCRW was just enthralled with his knowledge of literature and books and writers, and basically offered him up his own show. And Michael Silverblatt went for it after trying other professions. He kind of wanted to be a writer. He did want to be a writer. He loved books more than anything. And he went to school in Buffalo and actually taught under people like Foucault and who else? Donald Barthelme and John Barth. So he really, what am I trying to say? But he at a certain point realized that what he loved was reading. He just loved reading more than anything. And so Bookworm is, if I were to think of words that go with Bookworm, the show, I would say it's he was enthusiastic, dedicated, fun, rigorous, obsessed. Did I say impassioned? And he would just please writers. Excuse me, to no end. He was known as the most voracious reader and also the most astute reader. And so you would always hear the writers he was interviewing just be completely stunned by his insights. And just wanted to basically, David Foster Wallace, in fact, was famously quoted as saying, I remember in his interview, he said, I'm actually wanting you to adopt me right now because of how incredibly brilliant his responses to his writing that Silverblatt was explaining. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, and I'm getting stuffed up. But anyway, I loved Michael Silverblatt for so many reasons. He's an unlikely character to be put on the radio because his voice is sort of distinctly nasally and easy to make fun of. A lot of people have, when you talk about Michael Silverblatt, everybody talks about his voice. And he's very sincere. He's very earnest. Also things that people tend to make fun of. Not me. I do not make fun of those things. Let me have another drink here. Just give me 1 second. What are you guys drinking these days? What's your favorite drink? There's your question corner for today. What's your favorite drink? So there is an archive, like I said, 33 years of the show Bookworm that you can go through, and pretty much any contemporary writer you can think of has been on it. And I was introduced to so many writers through listening to Bookworm and just hearing their conversations. A lot of times it was just that Silverblatt and whoever he's interviewing would be talking about some book I had never heard of. And of course, I'm always jotting down notes and then looking it up. And so many of my favorite writers have come from Michael Silverblatt. I also really encourage, if you guys do not already know, I know a lot of you guys were Bookworm listeners. And so my apologies if I'm the bearer of bad news to tell you that Silverblatt did, in fact, pass away last month. We none of us really knew what was going on with him. We knew he was ill, but when Bookworm ended, it didn't really end with an understanding of what happened. So it was really sad and confusing, and a lot of us felt very lost without it. I also want to say that Michael Silverblatt, some of his interviews, there's one that I highly recommend. I'll put a link in the description for you. It's Michael Silverblatt being interviewed at Cornell University. And there's this moment that he says one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard anyone say, and I will read it to you right now. He's talking about when he was in the university in Buffalo, and how how he felt about these heroes of his. These are heroes who he was reading prior to getting into college, and just how he wanted to soak in every word they spoke, And he said, and here's the quote: "These people who I had read, it never occurred to me that you needed to have courage to speak to these people. As far as I was concerned, because they had written what they'd written, and because I had responded to it so intensely, they were my friends. They didn't know it yet, but they were not going to escape my love." And that last line, "they were not going to escape my love," and then shortly after that line, he gets tears in his eyes thinking about his love of John Barth's, how do you say that? John Barth. And just, it's just a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I really related to it. I realize that that's on the verge of, what everybody now calls parasocial relationships, but there are just certain people in the world, and I am definitely one of them, who, when I love someone and what they do, I couldn't just let it be. I've never been able to just be like, yeah, I just like them. If I know they still exist, they're out there in the world somewhere, they have gotten a letter from me. They have gotten a message from me. They have gotten an audio recording from me or something. It's just how I function. And in this day and age, it makes it really easy. But I mean, I've talked about it endlessly on here probably too. But as a kid, I was a huge fan letter writer. I would always write to whatever I would find an address. If it was CBS Studios, we would just write it to them. I mean, wherever my letters could go. And actually, I just now remembered, Michael Silverblatt was one of these people who I wrote a handwritten letter to. And he called me. And it was so exciting. I remember I had just come home from a colonoscopy and I was really out of it. And I saw a random LA number calling me. I was living in LA at the time. And so I thought it was the hospital. I never answered my phone ever, ever, ever. But because I thought it was the hospital following up with me, I answered it. And I hear his just his sweet voice saying he's looking for Robin. And I got to have a long conversation with him on the phone. We talked for a really long time, planned to meet up eventually, but either I didn't pursue it or I felt weird about it. I don't know what happened. I really wanted to, but I also felt bad. Like I don't know what. But anyway, it never happened again. I also saw him in LA many times. I talked to him a few times because he would be at readings or he would be, hosting a conversation with a writer, and I would go to that, or I would just see him in the audience at places. One time I just saw him hanging out outside of a 7-Eleven too with some guy. I don't know, some very interesting looking young man. It was fascinating. I will be honest, I sat there and I watched him walk around for a long time. I'm sure I maybe even took a secret photo of him. Actually, I was with Billy when that happened, so that brings back a little Billy memory. But anyway, so that's Michael Silverblatt. I just wanted to announce his passing and just speak of him a while and excuse me, and let everybody know and remember how much I loved him and how he was also a big influence on me starting this podcast. Because, this podcast is all about the written word. It's all about me celebrating that and encouraging you guys to buy real books from real writers and poets, and trying to support. I just think that writers should be supported more. And and it's just about my enthusiasm for the written word, right? And so even though I have no business with a literature or a poetry podcast, whatever this is, really, because I'm an artist, I'm a visual artist, I'm trained in a totally different field. But for whatever reason, this is what I want to do. And so I'm still doing it. And I always like remembering that, Michael Silverblatt didn't get paid for the first 5 years. That wasn't his job. And I just like, I've never gotten paid a cent from this podcast, of course. Well, unless, I think I asked you guys, unless maybe I am now. I have no idea what's going on. And if so, that will only be about 4 cents, by the way. So I don't know. I've got to figure this out. But I also have one last Michael Silverblatt quote that I'd like to read to you guys. And this I just heard him say once on the podcast, I believe. On Bookworm. I am one who does not think that the earth was made for us. I think that we are first to last strangers on it, and that it takes a good first half of our lives just to get used to gravity, that it is not easy. And these are the types of statements that came out of his mouth with seemingly no effort. Every sentence was that eloquent and that thoughtful and that full of, I guess, wisdom and depth. That's Michael Silverblatt. And so today, for a short reading, I'm going to grab somebody who he introduced me to on Bookworm, who is the writer David Markson. And I'm going to be reading. David Markson died in, I think, 2010, but there's some really good interviews with David Markson on the Bookworm podcast. I encourage you to look those up. Give me 1 second. I'm about to sneeze again. Man, these sneezes are getting a little more intense as time goes on. Anyway, David Markson, New York writer, died in 2010, and I'm going to be reading from both. Well, let me read you the back of Reader's Block. Reader's Block was the first, quote, novel. It's an experimental novel, or experimental fiction, I would call it. It's a part of his tetralogy series, also called the Note Card Quartet, which are, how do I describe? Well, let me just read this to you. Let me put on my glasses. Okay, this is from Reader's Block, the back of Reader's Block, which is from the Dalkey Archives. Okay, here we go. In this spellbinding, utterly unconventional fiction, an aging author who is identified only as reader contemplates the writing of a novel. As he does, other matters insistently crowd his mind. Literary and cultural anecdotes, endless quotations attributed and not, scholarly curiosities, the residue of a lifetime's reading, which is apparently all he has to show for his decades on Earth. Out of these unlikely yet incontestably fascinating materials, including innumerable details about the madness and calamity in many artists' and writers' lives, the eternal critical affronts, the startling bigotry, the countless suicides, David Markson creates a novel of extraordinary intellectual suggestiveness. But while shoring up readers' ruins with such fragments, Markson also manages to electrify his novel with an almost unbearable emotional impact. Where a reader ultimately leads us is shattering. So that's the description of Reader's Block, which is the first in the tetralogy. And I'm going to be reading, though, from one of I think this might be my favorite, which is called This Is Not a Novel. And this is the second one. And I am just going to open and read to you guys the first page. And then from there, I'll just read everything. I have a little mark next to you guys know I'm big into marginalia. I'm always writing notes on the pages of my books. I have a very specific process for that if anybody ever wants to hear about it. But anyway, here we go. This Is Not a Novel by David Markson. Writer, so he was Reader. In Reader's Block, the main character is named Reader, and in This Is Not a Novel, he's named Writer. Writer is pretty much tempted to quit writing. Writer is weary unto death of making up stories. Lord Byron died of either rheumatic fever, or typhus, or uremia, or malaria, or was inadvertently murdered by his doctors, who had bled him incessantly. Stephen Crane died of tuberculosis in 1900. Granted an ordinary modern lifespan, he would have lived well into World War II. This morning, I walked to the place where the street cleaners dump the rubbish. My God, it was beautiful, says a Van Gogh letter. Ryder is equally tired of inventing characters. Bertolt Brecht died of a stroke. Terrified of being buried alive, he had pleaded that a stiletto be driven through his heart once he was declared legally dead. An attending physician did so. Okay. Hold on. Don't worry, we're going to keep going. A novel with no overriding central motivations, Ryder wants. Hence, with no conflicts and or confrontations, similarly. Georgia O'Keeffe died blind. With no social themes, i.e. no picture of society. No depiction of contemporary manners and or morals. Categorically, with no politics. Kierkegaard died of lung infection or a disease of the spine. Alexander Pope died of dropsy. John Milton died of gout. No one ever painted a woman's backside better than Boucher, said Renoir. A novel entirely without symbols. Space is blue and birds fly through it, said Werner Heisenberg. Ultimately, a work of art without even a subject, Ryder wants. I was tired and ill. I stood looking across the fjord. The sun was setting. The clouds were colored red, like blood. I felt as though a scream went through nature, said Edvard Munch. Can only have been painted by a madman, said Munch of the same canvas. Is John 8:6-8 the only place in the New Testament where Jesus is seen writing anything, if only marking on the ground with a finger? Joseph Conrad died of a heart seizure. And who are you, said he. Don't puzzle me, said I, says Tristram Shandy, Volume 233. As a sort of mantra, Kant would sometimes recite a list of people who had lived long lives, hoping to match them. He reached 80. Gluck's face was pitted from smallpox. Haydn's face was pitted from smallpox. Mozart's face was pitted from smallpox. Ludwig Wittgenstein died of prostate cancer. And we'll stop there. I could keep going, but you get the idea of how these books and the tetralogy are written. I can never get enough of them. You can buy them in a set, I believe now. I have a set. I'll put a link in the description for all of them, but basically it goes Reader's Block, then This Is Not a Novel, then Vanishing Point, and then the last novel. So those are, and I believe the last novel was the last book that David Markson read. But again, I have Michael Silverblatt and Bookworm to thank for that. I am going to miss Bookworm. I mean, I have been missing it since 2022, but I just can't believe that this guy has gone. But he really did create. He has a legacy that he left behind, something really unique, really powerful, really special, and really fun. I think you'll also find he's always laughing, but there are other times when you can tell, I mean, he cries a lot too. He openly cries a lot. He's my kind of guy. He's emotional, and he's plagued with a lot of admitted problems too, which you'll hear as you listen to more and more interviews. Obviously, it's not about him, but you'll get a real sense for who he was. So I hope that this encourages you to get into Michael Silverblatt and Bookworm if you haven't already. Look him up, find interviews on him, and then also David Markson. Go ahead and do a deep dive on him and listen to Michael Silverblatt's interviews with David Markson as well. Well, I'm ending this sort of mad at myself because I promised this would be 15 minutes or less, and here we are at a half an hour. I want to get back to giving you guys shorter episodes, and here's why. Number one, I realize why I used to do it. It was A, because I do have a deep fear of boring people, as I've said many times over. even though I just keep talking and talking and talking, I do have a fear of, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty boring today. And you know what? That's okay too. Because I still wanted to celebrate Michael Silverblatt and I still wanted to talk to you guys no matter what. But the point is that, okay, we keep it short. We just give you guys a little something that I've read, that I've enjoyed, that maybe you'll enjoy too, and then we get the fuck out of here. Call it a day. Not a big deal. A fun idea for a podcast. I want to get back to it because it's also the reason I must have done that when I think back to the early days, 10 plus years ago. I was busy as hell. I was working on show after show after show after drawing after drawing after drawing, and I never stopped. And so I didn't have time for this bullshit of, constantly editing. I mean, it takes a long time podcasts take a long time, period, but editing and all of that and publishing and getting them out there and doing the summaries. And now I'd really like to, well, anyway, the point being, I'm back to, because thank God I made it through last year and I survived and I am feeling better. I'm back to being in my studio. I'm getting my website done. I'm working around the clock trying to get my life back together, you guys. I'm very excited to be busy again. I am trying so hard to get my real life back. And so I think I should go back to the not as talky version of me reading stuff, and I'm going to try it next week since clearly I ruined it this week, but I did. When I sat down to do this today, not long ago, while I was sneezing right in your face, I completely thought this was going to be a short one. So I guess I had a lot to say about good old Michael Silverblatt. Oh, I also wrote down another quote that I remembered him saying that I did not read to you guys. And I remembered him saying this, and maybe somebody else said it first because it seems very obvious, but he said, "You can't win without a fight." And I've always liked that. I'll just end it there. You guys, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to come back with a shorter episode next week, I promise. But thank you for listening. Please review the podcast on Apple Podcast if you can, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If there's a review there, I would love to see some good reviews coming in again. Not that I'm having good or bad ones. I just think that I haven't talked about that anymore. But it really helps this podcast, and it would mean a lot to me. I always get thrilled reading your reviews. It's really nice of you. So thank you for doing that ahead of time. And wish me all the luck on my website. I sure as hell need it. And I wish you guys luck on everything you're doing. We all need it, right? And my heart is very full with love for you guys. And I mean that. I really do. Thank you for everything you guys do for me and all the things you talk to me about and share with me. It means the world. We'll be back next week. I love you. Bye.